What?
It happened a while ago.
Okay. Okay.
Woke us up.
You ready? Ready?
Yep.
Jennifer, would you be interested in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight? Yes, ma'am. I don't see you here very often. I thought I would just. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We'd like to call the City Council, Craig City Council meeting to order January 12th, 2021. Let the record reflect that all council is present. And our first order of business is approval of minutes from the December 8th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Nichols, seconded by Councilman Mazuka to approve our December 8th, 2020 meeting minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Second item is approval of minutes from the December 18th, 2020 special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman James, seconded by Councilwoman Camp to approve our December 18th, 2020 special meeting minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Item 3 is approval of bills through December 31st, 2020 in the amount of $796,047.34.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Nichols, seconded by Councilman James to approve City of Craig bills through December 31st, 2020 in the amount of $796,047.34. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Approval of agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Camp, seconded by Councilman Mazuka to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Up next is item 5, and that is our public comment. I will remind the audience, you are more than welcome to come up to our elongated podium tonight and state your name and address and pose a question, comment, or concern to City Council on any past, present, or future city business. And I am truly expecting someone. I mean, this is like one of the biggest audiences we've had since the beginning of COVID, so please, anyone.
Am I supposed to lay down?
However you'd like to do it, ma'am. I just want to be able to hear you in the microphone.
Vicky Heiser, Taylor Street. I don't really have anything. I want to thank Trevor for all of his guys and all the snow removal, the snow plows. I love that. Thank you very much. And since he is present and for other business, I would also like to publicly recognize and thank my neighbor, Tom Gilchrist, for the same thing, snow removal.
Nice.
He's always out there with his snow blower, and he's amazing, and he does a whole bunch of us, including me, and I am extremely, extremely grateful. So thank you, Mr. Gilchrist.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Does he take requests?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just was curious.
Does he have snow blowerable travel?
Anyone else? Bashful crowd. Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to item 6. That's presentations. Our first item on presentations is the administration of oath to Mr. David Bruce Cummings as our new council member to replace outgoing council member Tony Boyer.
I, David Bruce Cummings,
I, David Bruce Cummings,
do solemnly swear or solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the Craig City Charter and municipal ordinances,
and the Craig City Charter and municipal ordinances,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office
of council member of Craig, Colorado, upon which I am about to enter.
of council member in Craig, Colorado, upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Bruce, you're welcome to join us up here if you'd like. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep. I'm not sure, honestly, if I should ever say congratulations or condolences, but I appreciate you getting up here.
Well,
We need all the help we can get.
here I
Just ask
sit.
around.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, welcome aboard, sir. Council, any words of wisdom? Come on, Mr. Nichols.
Well, we enjoy your enthusiasm during your interview. That was impressed with that. So,
Well, thank you.
keep your enthusiasm for the community and can't go wrong.
Exactly.
All right, will do.
Okay. Councilman James, you look like you're really thinking there, sir.
This just comes with the beard.
Okay. All right, well, up next is our item 6B. Hannah Wood, along with Greg Moore, Bill Wade, Karen Harkin from Homeward Bound, Grand Valley, will update council regarding the ESG-CV2 grant progress.
Can you hear me okay? How about this? I'll just lean in. Okay. I'm Hannah. I'm the Executive Director of the Housing First Alliance. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves.
My name is Bill Wade. I'm the board chair for Homeward Bound to the Grand Valley.
Greg Moore, Executive Director at Homeward Bound to the Grand Valley.
Karen Harkin, Vice Chairperson of Homeward Bound to the Grand Valley.
So I'm bringing them here today not only to introduce them to our council and our community, but we're wanting to talk about what our plan is. So you guys have kind of been apprised of what I've been trying to do. In a nutshell, we want to bring a homeless shelter to Craig using Homeward Bound's illustrious background. So I have a presentation ready, but we can forego that and just do question and answers if that's what the council prefers. Because I feel like there's probably some burning questions in there. So Liz, would you pull it up and then we can just click through it, or?
We don't want to shorten your time, and these folks came
Okay.
up from Grand Junction area, I'm assuming. So by all means, if
Okay.
you want to go through the presentation for everyone's sake, we'd love to see it.
Okay, well, it's a Prezi, so it's a little more interactive than a PowerPoint, but it's the same idea.
Okay. We've been plagued with technical difficulties as of late, so.
Well, same, okay, so the same kind of idea that I had kind of talked about earlier about using 445 Ranny, the building formerly known as CAPS, to be an emergency homeless shelter for single men and single women. Later on, I'd like to have more programs, but starting out, it will be for single men and single women, preferably starting October 1st. And the ESG CV2 grant that the Division of Housing puts through from HUD, Homeward Bound Grand Valley will be applying on Housing First Alliance's behalf instead of asking the city to be the fiscal agent. What else? Well, my project or my presentation was kind of going to guide me through this. You want to talk?
We got involved at Homeward Bound in Grand Junction because Hannah contacted Beverly Lampley from Catholic Outreach in Grand Junction and our executive director, Greg Moore, and wanted to have a Zoom call to just talk about the issues and what you face when you deal with a problem of this nature. And unfortunately for Hannah, she invited me to be on said call. And one of the things she said at the very beginning of the call was, I want you people to look at my budget, I want you people to look at my plan, and please be blunt. And I took her at her word. And we said, Hannah, that we think if you have a problem, the problem needs to be defined, and we would love to assist you, but the budget you have for this grant that you're potentially looking to go to ESG to the state for is about maybe a third of what you might need to do this. And we said at that point that because Homeward Bound has been successful in the Grand Valley and in Grand Junction, that we would be more than willing to talk about working jointly with you, because we've done some of these things that you don't have to replicate in Craig. And as I said this afternoon when we were meeting with Peter, we may not know how to do everything, but we certainly know about 95% of the things you shouldn't do before you make a program like this work. So Hannah invited us to work with her. Greg has already spoken to the ESG folks, and they're very happy to entertain an application from us on your behalf because we get funded by ESG in a number of different areas. So we're excited about it because we think we can bring some of what Homeward Bound does without you guys having to replicate it should the possibilities arise and the city decide to go forward with a program like this.
And if you're wondering if our homeless, I'm going to quote, air quote, problem is really a problem, it is. It may not, the people that are experiencing homelessness may not be as visible as, you know, the stereotypical guy pushing a cart full of cans with a bunch of dirty coats on. Like, the majority of our people that are experiencing homelessness are couch surfing, staying in places that are unfit for human habitation, like their car or a shed or under a bridge, squatting in abandoned buildings, campers in their friend's driveway. So it is a problem, and the first step on the housing continuum is to have an emergency shelter.
Thank you, Hannah. I would like to just acknowledge something that I think is really unique. Hannah approached us, and it's unusual to have someone with this kind of passion and fire and care about her community to step up and say, hey, I see a problem and I think I'd like to help do something about it. So I want to commend the City Council and Hannah for this even being on the table, because this problem, this issue exists in every community in the nation, and I think we're all fairly well aware of that. Our goal being here is to A, let you get some faces to put with the name, and B, to indicate that our goal in this is simply to be of service and to help you do what you want to do, and shorten the learning curve and provide some expertise to help this effort move forward in the most expeditious way possible. So I want to clear the air on that we don't have any other agenda other than to really help where we can and do what we can to help this effort go forward. Karen?
Thank you very much for having us up here. I think as we've all gone through these struggles in the last year, 80% of the working population in the United States is one paycheck away from being homeless. So you may not see these folks now, but they're there. Their kids are in your schools. And to be upfront, and I'd like Greg to talk a little bit about what happened when we opened our shelter with families. We knew that we had families that were homeless in Grand Junction. We knew that. Some came to the shelter, but some didn't. When we opened those doors in August, what we saw shocked us. And I think you may find the same thing. When you open a door for an emergency shelter where a family can come in out of the car and the kids can go to school with clean clothes and be bathed and fed in the morning, that makes a world of difference. So I'd like Greg to talk a little bit about that, because that was just overwhelming to us.
Just a quick bit of history. We started 20 years ago. Last year was our 20th anniversary. And we began in a church basement, but then we got with the city, and they actually helped us acquire a building. There's a former Knights of Columbus building that we converted. We've been operating out of that since that time. It's about an 8,000 square foot building. We can house, when it's really cold outside, up to 120 people in a congregate setting. And we provide emergency shelter, showers, that kind of thing. We housed single men, single women, and families all in the confines of that facility. Needless to say, there's a significant lack of any kind of privacy and personal space in that many people in that setting. And we had a few families that in desperation would come and stay with us. We were never really excited about housing families with small children along with single men and single women, especially given some of the issues that are associated with this particular group of people. But we made it work. In August, we opened the new Pathways Family Shelter. It's an 18,000 square foot, 3-story building that's designed specifically to house families and women so that we could better serve the needs of each one of those groups. We've been having an average of 2 families, about 8 to 10 people typically, individuals typically stay with us at the old facility. When we opened the new facility within 2 weeks, we had almost 60 people. And they didn't come from out of town. These are people that had been staying in their cars, been living in motels, housed with other families. So there's a latent demand out there that isn't necessarily readily visible, but clearly exists. And at the same time, that now enabled us to house more men, and we saw quite a number of people that are coming from campsites and other places around town that are now able to stay with us because we have space. And as Hannah pointed out, this is the first stop in housing. Getting people housed makes all the difference in the world in terms of your ability to get them services, get them connected, address some of the substance use and mental health issues that they have, and some of that kind of thing, which you can't do when they're not actively engaged in speaking with you, partaking in services. So we have gone to a low barrier housing first model, which is what Hannah is wanting to do here, which simply means we try to reduce the barriers to entry and make it as simple as possible for somebody to access the shelter. And then that gives us the opportunity to get them connected with all the other services that already exist and already exist in your community in one way or another, and get them on the path to getting off of the streets consistently and moving toward being a contributing member of the community. Sometimes that happens quickly, sometimes it takes months. I'll close with this. We had a gentleman who showed up at our doors now almost 20 months ago, severe schizophrenic, and was struggling out on the streets, unemployable, and almost couldn't talk. But he came to us out of desperation, and we began just letting him stay. He would come in, wouldn't talk to anybody, lie down, get his meal, go to sleep, get up in the morning, put back on his hoodie, put it over his head, and go outside in our day area and sit there with his head down on the table all day. But we figured that was better than him being wandering the streets of the town. It took almost 12 months before he said a word to anybody. And it took another 3 months before he was able to ask somebody if we could help him. And we convinced him to go to the local mental hospital. They were able to get him on some medication that now he's able to carry on a few sentence conversation with people, and we've been able to get him into some housing. So this is more than just emergency shelter. This is about a community deciding that these people matter, and we want to do some things to create a pathway for some healing and some hope. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Greg. Do you guys have any questions?
I'm sure we do. Yeah. The next thing, Bruce, did you get that? Is it?
It is.
You want to proceed with it? I would just want to give you that opportunity.
It's got some good information in there. Bruce, if you wouldn't mind, just click and then start on Y. Click on the bubble that says Y. Yeah. And so we talk about the social cost. So if you'll click on social cost, so the social cost of doing nothing is often higher than doing something. So if we take the cost of one police or deputy contact, one night stay in a jail, one EMS visit, one ride in an ambulance, one visit to the emergency department, and combine all those, the homeless shelter is going to not eliminate those costs, but decrease them for the folks that are frequent flyers. Okay, and then if you'll click back out. Oh yeah, why Craig? Yep, because we don't have one. So this would be the first thing of its kind up here. Okay. Try that arrow. Perfect. Again. Oh, nope. And then maybe just click back out in a blank space. There we go. There we go. Grant. So it's just a bunch of letters and words that mean the grant that we're going to be applying for is the ESG CV2 in Homeward Bound of Grand Valley is going to be applying on our behalf, like we just talked about. Okay. Sure. Yeah, just introducing these guys. Maybe the arrow's on the bottom. Yeah. Yeah, so low barrier means, and also depending on what types of funding you receive, kind of dictates what you can and can't do. And with an ESG CV2 grant, you can't require anything of the guests that come to the shelter. Like you can't require them to do a breathalyzer. You can't require them to get their bags checked. You can't require them to give their social or, promise to get treatment or promise to do this or contribute anything really. But I feel, and from the people that I've talked to, they want to contribute. They want to feel valuable. They want to feel like they're worth something. Okay, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. We're still working all of it out, but check-in's normally going to be about 5 p.m. Then they'll get dinner, and then they'll go to bed, and then checkout will be at 8 a.m. And they'll get a little breakfast bag, is what I'm envisioning. Of course, things are probably going to change by then. So housing first, if you want to read that real quick, all it means is that if you give housing, which is a basic need, the rest will come. So housing first means give them a place to live, and eventually the joblessness, mental health, substance use will get addressed. But housing needs to come first. And then my organization is, we're a new nonprofit. Miss Yazzie is in the audience. She's one of our board members. We're getting on our feet. We're getting going. So we need a legitimate study I think we need a legitimate study to be performed to address or to figure out the exact scope of homelessness. And there is the housing needs assessment that CHFA does? No. Contract out. Okay. Well, there's an institute over in Denver that does this, and so I've contacted them to see what we can work out, but that needs to happen. It won't happen in weeks. It's going to take a year probably to get that. But HUD requires any organization that uses HMIS, which is the Homeless Management Information System, to do a PIT count, which is a point in time count, and that happens on one day of the year. And this year it's January 26th, and you count unsheltered and sheltered folks. And it's probably going to be hard to do it this year for us. but that's how we get data on folks experiencing homelessness. Is we pick a day, HUD picks a day, and everyone goes and counts. And then I talked about the police and the, yeah. All right, that's it. Questions?
Council?
Sure. You want me to?
Sure, absolutely,
Yeah.
sir.
It was mentioned during the introductions that the comment was made, if the city should go forward with this, my question is, what's the city's involvement?
I would like for the city to purchase 445 Ranny and 403 Taylor, and then have us use this, the city use a CDBG grant to renovate or to acquire and renovate it. But of course, that is to be talked about. But the city's involvement would, I just would like to have buy-in from council, from our community, because if we go forward with this and it flops, it's probably never going to go again. So we need to have lots of steam going forward. Any other city involvement? How do I answer that?
I think our experience has been that the support of the city government administration, not necessarily financially, but that participating as one of the agencies and knowing about the referrals and how they can help the homeless population access this is probably the crucial point initially. It's really more of a recognition that it takes the whole community working together to address issues of this sort, and everybody has a part to play. Hannah alluded to the grant. One of the other things that of the services that we're offering, and I'll let Bill talk a little bit about this, is we have a whole group of people that write grants, so we can bring a much broader access to other organizations that fund these kinds of activities than just the ESG CV2. And that over the long haul will be a very important factor in making an operation of this kind economically viable and sustainable, along with the involvement of the community with contributions. We receive all kinds of in-kind contributions, food, clothing, legal aid, and all kinds of things from the community. So it's also that promoting that kind of support where other members of the community can contribute time and talent and treasure according to what they're good at to make something like this happen.
Maybe
Yeah,
two.
no,
but,
that's okay.
You mentioned Hannah's passion to this subject, to this problem. She first came to Joint Services, 3 months ago, was it, or more? City-County Joint Services, asking about and informing us of the homeless problem. We all know we have a homeless problem. We've seen it, that law enforcement talks about it. We see the crime that's involved with this certain segment of the population, breaking in, trying to find places to sleep, odds and ends. It's Hannah's passion. We told her, this is a bigger problem than what we're going to figure out Joint Services. Form a coalition of the human services organizations in town, which you did, and you made the contact with Homeward Bound. Do you find that once we establish this, that people migrate to it, to the service?
You saw me grab the mic, Councilman, because when I joined the board of directors at Homeward Bound in 2012, and when I retired back to Grand Junction, one of the first questions City Council said was, if we give you any support to rebuild a shelter and potentially consider this women and families shelter, you're just enabling people and people will come to Grand Junction. It's 8 years later. We have not seen any appreciable number of people come to Grand Junction for services. What we have seen is people that were already there in the community not being served, either in a bad family situation where there are multiple families in one house, or individuals sleeping down on the river begin to take advantage of these services when they found out essentially two things: that they were going to be treated with some dignity and they weren't going to be forced into a prison-like situation. And I think Grand Junction stands a much greater chance, because we're on Interstate 70, if anybody's going to migrate to any place for services, it's going to be Grand Junction. Now, most of you've probably heard, you know, because you have a resort town up the valley here, you know, we've all heard the issues of, and both Greg and I and Karen know that on occasion we have seen people get off the bus from Aspen or Vail with the address of the Grand Junction shelter on a card that they were given, because they wanted those people to move out of the resort areas. What we've learned in the 8 years since that time is that if you start a community-wide effort and you say that this isn't anybody's responsibility, it's not the police force responsibility, it's not yours as a council, this is a city issue that needs to be addressed in some form, and the more people you can include in figuring out how you may choose to address that, whether it is the city of Craig, whether it's Moffat County, whether it's Routt County, the wider you throw the net, the more likely you are to find people who say, if we can do some sort of collaborative effort, let's see if we can figure out a solution.
Thanks.
Okay.
And how do you get people to, you do this count, let's say the 26th of January, just pull that. How do you get that count? People are living in friends' houses and campers and...
Well, that's why it's going to be really hard for Craig to do that right now. We don't have a shelter. We don't have a big encampment of folks that we know where they are. So it may not happen this year for Craig. Plus, we're not using HMIS yet, so we're not required to do it. But do you want to talk about how you guys do pit count?
Yeah. Basically, PIT stands for point in time. And in the case of sheltered, for instance, if your school district knows of children that are homeless, they could count those individuals. If you have an operating shelter, then you simply count the number of people on that night who are staying in the shelter. And after you've done this for a couple of years, you'll have a pretty good idea of what that number is, just based on the number of people that are staying on a regular basis or that you see come through. The unsheltered count, what we do in Grand Junction is we have a number of organizations, Catholic Outreach, us, the House, and we have one group, Solidarity Not Charity, that goes to the outlying camps that we're aware of, and they will go out on that night and get a visual count of how many people they can see. So it takes a community effort to get it done, but the data that comes back is very helpful, because we begin to get a sense of the scope of the issues that we're contending with some data. The other thing that this does is this is done nationwide. So HUD produces a annual report, which you can access on their website, that would give you information about the nationwide count, the count by state, and they even break it down by the Coalition for Homeless Regions. So you can get a pretty good zero in on what the scope of the problem is just by accessing that already existing data. And if you take a look at our case, we can know that we last year counted about 500 people, but it was an just the sheltered count. We know there's, from the surveys we do, that there's another almost 200 in camps that we're aware of just in the Grand Junction area. That doesn't include people in the outlying communities that we know are out there but aren't counted in that particular count. So we can get a pretty good idea what percentage of our population is represented homelessness, and you could do that same kind of analysis for yourself and get a pretty good idea what the magnitude of the numbers might look like here, just by interpreting from the existing data that's already out there. I hope that answers that question for you.
Thank you. Good answers. I'm good. Thank you.
One question I had is, once we get these people into a shelter, that type of a situation, I feel like we have very limited resources as far as like mental health services. So I'm just curious, like, how do you get them that help to move them into that next step? Because I know we just don't have a lot of those services in our community.
You're right. We really don't. We have such a bad shortage of mental health professionals that the state is offering to repay student loans if you become employed by a mental health provider here. But we're going to have an MOU with Mind Springs and Providence. So we're going to work with what we got, and then Homer Brown.
We've had very good success with telehealth in that situation. The technology today makes some of those services available in a way that otherwise wouldn't. And we can get people in the shelter, hand them a phone that's provided to us by MindSprings, and they can have that face-to-face interaction that way. And the nice thing about that is you're bringing the service to the individual where they are rather than asking somebody who has limited transportation options to go somewhere. And the same thing can happen with the medical care and other things. So there's some innovative things that are happening that we don't have to have it all right here. We can access it other places. And I might add that we have a clinic that in this new building we just opened, we got a large HRSA grant to operate an on-site clinic. And we could even do telehealth from there to here if that would be helpful. So there's lots of options out there for that kind of thing. Good question.
Some shelters have traveling nurses that come in too.
I got a couple.
Sure.
I've been watching you out of the corner of my eye, Paul. You're writing it down.
That's how you gotta watch me.
You gotta watch the beard.
So, I am very impressed with the amount of work and effort that you put into this. I know that it was no small task. So don't take this the wrong way. But I have to ask, do you guys have any statistics on what the average length of stay is?
Actually, I can tell you what it is for single adults, or has been historically. I will tell you that with what's happened with COVID, our length of stay has changed dramatically because of that. Yeah, but typically, for a family, it's been about 91, 92 days. And that's simply because it takes time to find suitable housing that's affordable. It takes longer for a family because of the number of bedrooms, and typically there's some history there that we have to work with. For the average single adult, it's about 30 days. Now that isn't necessarily continuous. That might mean that they stay for us a week, go out for a month or two, come back, stay 2 weeks. There's a lot of in and out in that particular group. But that's the average number of days that somebody might stay with us during a year. This year, that number is much more closer to 90 to 120 because the nature of COVID is they're not wanting to go anywhere and they're staying where they know they're safe. So other factors influence that, but good question.
Okay, so hopefully this will blow over soon. So as I ask these questions, I would like to kind of keep them to a more typical year. I know that the whole COVID thing has blown everything out of proportion. It's changed how everyone does everything at this point. Let's see. And I was wondering if you could kind of elaborate on the whole path to a home and how, like, kind of what that looks like. Because I think that's a vital part of this, especially if we're going back to Chris's second question, as far as not asking for, or trying to get more people to be here and just rely on this shelter.
I'll start, you finish.
Okay.
The thing that surprised me as someone who came into this at the board level was I had some of the same assumptions that a lot of people have, that when people get on the public dole, if you will, they will stay on the public dole so long as it's available to them. What I learned as a board member, and I've since learned in my years as chair, is that if we have a group of 10 people, 7 out of 10 of those people would rather be anywhere than in a shelter system. 7 out of 10 of those people, if given the opportunity to join a training program, to get some counseling, to get some housing counseling, and the kinds of things that we've already done some of the background work on and built so that we could layer those into the operation up here, are more than willing to try and get out of homelessness if they possibly can. Unfortunately, the other 3 are a much more difficult problem because you're dealing with either mental health issues or substance abuse issues, and you're also dealing with a certain percentage of these people who simply don't want any help. I think the truth of the matter is, just based on the little research I've done about this valley and about Craig, you probably have less of what I would call the what's the word I'm looking for, Greg? The chronic homeless, yeah, thank you. the chronic homeless here, because this isn't a place that they would have become chronically homeless, because it's just not like Florida. I mean, Los Angeles has 59,000 people on the streets every single night. And that's a problem they're not going to fix. It's just too big. Communities the size of Craig have the opportunity, if they plan, to maybe make a difference. But it's got to really be planned.
I can tell you that we've taken the approach of what we term incentivizing progress. And by that I mean that when somebody comes to us for the first time, we get them registered in HMIS. We have a couple of case managers, and their task is to do an initial assessment. And then we just want to keep them staying with us long enough that we get the chance to talk to them and find out, develop some trust. It takes a while to develop enough trust for people to believe, okay, they're not going to report me to the police or throw me in jail or something. But once we get that, then we can begin asking, what would you like your life to look like? Is there anything you'd like to do? And it might be, gosh, I'd like to stop drinking all the time. Or it might be, I want to get a job or whatever. We have right now, today, in the shelter, 35 people who are working homeless. That means they've got full-time jobs and cannot afford a place to stay or can't find one because the housing market's so tight. So part of what we do is let them stay long enough so they're not back out somewhere else, stay with us, and we don't require them to do this, but most of them start putting money aside and start looking to get a down payment or whatever. And there's grant money available where we can help them with deposits and that kind of thing it becomes. So there's all kinds of ways that this can happen. And our point here is we want to develop a relationship with each individual and help them formulate a plan, keep the ball in their court to be responsible for making whatever changes are necessary for this to happen. Most want to. Some are mentally handicapped, that's not right, mentally challenged enough because of mental health issues that it's very difficult and it takes a long time for that process to happen, but it happens. You heard me tell that one story. So it's about creating an environment where there's an opportunity for success. And we start with small things. Make your bed every day. Get up. Help do a chore in here. Clean up your space. Sanitize your space, whatever it might be. But rehabituating people to doing something useful and productive. We have found that almost every one of those individuals have given the chance to say, I got to do something useful today. That makes an enormous difference in their perception of the situation and what the possibilities might be. So it's an incremental process, and it's not a one-size-fits-all, but there is a definite track that we can help people get on to do that. I hope that we've answered your question.
I did like that answer. What kind of housing do these people typically end up with? Is it going to be subsidized housing, or I mean, is the end goal to get them to be fully independent?
Any or all of the above. Most will require initially some sort of subsidy. Might be a housing voucher, might be some grant assistance. Typically, you know, if they need first and last months and the deposit, you know, that's a big hurdle for somebody that has nothing. Might be that kind of assistance. But the ultimate goal is to have the individual become self-sustaining. But there can be, typically are, quite a number of steps in between. Most often we see that we need to get people into some sort of housing where there's also some case management support that stays with them for a period of time to keep that rehabituation, resocialization process happening long enough to where it becomes their norm.
I do apologize for these, but I have quite a few questions that do stem from this.
Don't apologize.
I was just going to add on. I was just going to add on to your comment about are they in subsidized housing. It is very, very difficult for an individual, male or female, that doesn't have a disability, doesn't have children, to get a housing choice voucher. Then you are looking at a project-based voucher system. The building has vouchers, Section 8 vouchers, attached to those individual units, not attached to those people. Those are very, very difficult to find. You have some here, you don't have a lot, and there isn't any more of those being built. That's done. Program's over. So they have to come with a housing choice voucher, which would only come through a housing authority. So if you're worried about building a lot more Section 8 housing, it's probably not going to happen. Peter's working on doing a housing needs assessment. That will help to identify what are the steps in the housing continuum that you need here in Craig. Having an emergency shelter is step one. That's not where we want them to stay. But at this time, you have very limited options for them to go next. And that will come with the housing study. That will also include workforce housing. And workforce is a broad range of people. It's from people working at McDonald's to people working at the hospital. And that's what your study will identify. So if you're concerned that it's going to be more public housing, not likely.
That wasn't my concern. My concern is more particularly with a family that does end up being, needing the subsidized housing. How long is the average stay where they're there? Do we have any data on that?
The only data that I can give you is we built as part of the family and women's shelter that we just opened this year. Our first step was to build a 40-unit apartment project there in Grand Junction, which was designed to serve as housing for homeless individuals and families. And when that opened on July 4th, 2016, was 2016, wasn't it? Yeah, 2016, it took 93 people immediately off the street. Those were project-based vouchers that were attached to the building, and you had, in order to qualify, you had to make less than 30% of AMI, average mean income, which means you essentially had to be completely homeless. You had to apply through Homeward Bound to get in there. When we filled those apartments up, there is no rule that says that I couldn't live there if I moved in there at the age of 70 for the rest of my natural life, as long as my income didn't increase above the minimum threshold level. Provided with that housing was some counseling and some access to services, which hopefully helps families and people get a better life, get a better job. And what happens is the process works like this. If I get a better job and I can no longer qualify to live in that housing, I move out and I get another voucher that potentially, if I need one, can help me find housing somewhere else. And the original voucher stays with the building to help somebody else who's at the bottom of the pyramid. How long they stay there, that building's been open 4 years. It's had about 25% turnover, I believe, in that 4-year period. Greg, is that about right? And I believe that probably 70% of that turnover has been people who left the area because they got a job somewhere else, because they just wanted to leave the area. You can't force people, obviously, to stay in a place like this. I would say maybe 10% of the people that have left the apartments have found full-time employment and moved on. You try and track that, but it's very hard. But that's what you should do, is set up a pathway that says you're here. Our job is to help you not continue at 30% AMI. Our job is to help you get a job. If it's not in the Valley here or in Craig, it's somewhere else. Get you retrained. We have 2 of the programs Greg's instituted in Grand Junction. We have a culinary training program that doesn't train chefs. I know you say culinary arts program and people's eyes glaze over. It trains fry cooks. That's what it does. And we have begun arrangements with both of the hospitals in Grand Junction and some other people who always need low-level restaurant people to work. So the idea is we train you to do that, and then there's potentially a place for you to go. One of the other programs that we're about to start is a building maintenance training program, the same sort of thing. So incumbent in doing these sorts of things and in giving them that track is you just give them a house and no help, they're not going to get out of that house, ever. You got to do something else with it.
We have a very strong relationship with the Grand Junction Housing Authority, and they own many units, tax credit units, on a wide variety of 30% up to 80% area median income. We work very closely with them to find units for families. Our first priority is helping our families come out of the shelter and into decent, safe, secure, affordable housing. And we do that as quickly as possible. But many times they have things, credit issues that need to be cleared up. Many of them have past evictions. And so we have to work through those kind of issues to make them eligible to have any kind of housing.
Yep. The other piece of this is that we have made it a point to cultivate relationships with all of the landlords in our community. And so we have the ability to help people get places because we have some established relationships. We've pre-vetted the people, we've coached them, and so the landlords know that the people that we're sending them are much more likely to be successful than the average person because of the preparation work that's been done. Last year we helped 160 individuals get house. Most of those were market rate in one form or another. So it's been our experience that the majority of individuals who come to our doors don't want to be there, as Bill said, and our goal is to help their stay be short and non-repeating. And so all these other things that we do are geared toward that end. We did a survey recently of the people that we had, those we could still find that we'd helped get housed, and a year later, 90% of those we placed were still in the housing. So that part of the process is working fairly well at this point.
So, I have one last question. Now, one of the reasons that I am hard on this is because I definitely suffered from substance abuse issues at an earlier age in my life, and I spent some time homeless. And where I was, there's no way that I would ever step foot in here. And there's no way that any outside help was going to get me to change my life. And I did it on my own. Now, I recognize that I could be more the exception than the rule with that. But that is one of the biggest fears that I have with this, is that we do get that, kind of like with our jail system right now. I don't want it to be a revolving door. I definitely don't want to have that be a key point in our society. When I asked that, there was one thing that was stated that I just have to question, and that's when as these people find housing, that it helps their substance abuse problems, and I have a very difficult time believing that. I interned for quite a while doing drug and alcohol counseling, and every single one of those people had they had a home that they lived in, and that's where most of their abuse took place. So I don't quite see that, how just simply getting people off the streets is going to improve that, or it's going to become less taxing on the law enforcement, and that is one of my big concerns with that. Especially because that is a large problem with the group of homeless people that we have here in Craig. I'm probably the most skeptical on pretty much any topic we have here, and that's why honestly I don't feel like I've been this hard on anybody in a while. And I apologize that it's you guys. I think and you guys have taken my questions very well, and you've definitely answered them in a very satisfactory manner. So don't take this the wrong way.
You're not being hard, you're being honest, and you're coming from experience. There's not a person at this table that doesn't appreciate that. Which one of us said that, by the way?
I think it was Hannah.
Yeah, so I talked about how, when you housing first, and then the housing first and the rest will come. Not right away. Definitely not right away. There are so many things that have to happen for sobriety. You and I know that very well. Okay? But it's...
Greg, talk about...
Yeah, I can speak to this. I'm sober 33 years myself. So I get what you're talking about. Part of another program that we just have launched is called Recovery Living. And it is designed as a social model, not a clinical model, for those that wish to make that change. We know we can't force anybody into that. If you force it, in fact, most go in the opposite direction. I know I certainly did for a long period of time. But the point is that if we can get them into the shelter, we at least get the opportunity to begin having that conversation and planting the seed that maybe something could be different. We see all kinds of people come and go, come and go, come and go, and finally they'll show up at the door and say, I'm so tired of this. Would you help me do something different? That's when it's time to move in that direction. And so it requires a fair amount of staff training and sophistication to be able to understand what's the right time and to plant the seeds and be patient while you give them a chance to germinate. And when they germinate, then have a path somebody can follow to follow it. And that's true whether it's housing, mental health, whether it's anything else. So the same basic process needs to occur regardless of what the specific issue that the individual shows up with is. I hope that helps.
Yeah, and this is, sorry. And this is, probably, another question, so I lied, that last one. This is a follow-up question to what you just said. And it's, really more just for clarification, purposes, but the rehabilitation, portion of this program is nonprofit, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's good, because I found that for-profit rehabilitation clinics tend to work better when they don't actually help people, because they get better business. So that does make me feel much more comfortable there. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, thank you guys very much, and I do appreciate, you can handle that very well. So I know I'm a difficult person sometimes, so.
Sometimes.
I hear some.
Councilman, any questions?
No, but I would like to thank you guys for coming, and I appreciate the efforts that you put forth for the homeless, because that is definitely a situation that I don't ever want to be in. And so thank you very much for your passion and your compassion for helping those folks.
Councilman Mazuka, anything?
Nope, I'm good.
So I just have I had some more questions, but through attrition and time here, you guys basically got them covered for me, so thank you. You guys alluded to the fact that your group, Homeward Bound, if I'm saying that correctly, brings with it the ability and talent to help gain grant money, if I understand that correctly. So Hannah, to you, first of all, your humble request to the city is to purchase a building.
We're not requesting that right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just looking to the bigger picture here.
She surprised me when she said that.
Fair enough.
And us too.
Yeah. So please don't hear that the city is not interested and that all we think about is money, because it's definitely not the case. We are forced with a lot of tough decisions up here as a council, and it's not been a bad year, honestly, sales tax, everything considering, surprisingly enough to everyone. But it's always something we have to be mindful of, and definitely purchasing a building wasn't on the docket. So I hope that your group, you alluded to the fact that you can get maybe multiple grants. My question is the purchase of a building something that is in your purview, so to speak, to grant right? Is that something you can help on that side of things?
The family shelter that we just built in Grand Junction started out as a $3 million building. It ended up at just a tad under $7 million. And we raised all of that money from either private foundations, private individuals, or the State Division of Housing.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so that will help us for sure. I mean, I think everyone that sits on this council understands the situation and definitely wants to do what we can and what's best for the community. I will also say that the majority of concern or comments that I have taken personally in the community since Hannah has started this endeavor has been the fear, I guess, if you will, or philosophy that, and it's been alluded to, that if you build it, they will come, right? You alluded it to yourself, sir. And then along with that, the next concern I heard was, well, it's great that we have found this group that is so well versed in this portion of life, unfortunately, for some folks, that you guys have the background and the experience. Is this, so we would be, our particular shelter, if this works out, we would be affiliated, it sounds like, with Homeward Bound to some degree. You would be, I don't know how that would be structured, I guess, is what I'm asking. And then it's kind of a two-part question. Is this, if you get if you get full in Grand Junction, and now that you have this affiliate in Craig, is that where you send folks? Just a curiosity.
I can answer the second question unequivocally. Absolutely not.
Got it.
Craig would have their own nonprofit, which had their own priorities for their own community and worked with the other agencies in their community. Our relationship would be, and we've kind of thought about it ourselves, would be, first of all, there would be some kind of a partnership licensing thing that said you can be Housing First of Craig, doing business with the logo on the door that would say Homeward Bound of Craig, completely separate entity. Then with regard to the operational help, the grant funding, things of that nature, we've already built the structure where we go out and get our operational grants. Those people are there. They're already paid for. We could utilize them on a fee basis to provide the same sort of services for you.
Okay.
It's just things you wouldn't have to build to start out.
Understood. Thank you. The other quick question I have, a lot of what you guys referred to as far as how you go about fixing, helping folks, and whether that's getting them in that initial first home or finding the voucher and getting them into the second home, a family or single adult, whoever that is, or helping them with mental health issues or substance abuse issues. When I hear you speak passionately about it, thank you for that. You say we a lot. If I'm understanding this correctly, you are the board of this group. Homeward. Yep.
I'm the board chair. She's the vice chair. He's the executive director.
Okay. So we, I'm assuming, is a figurative term for you have a group of support personnel, folks that you I employ potentially through the organization for people like Genevieve Yazzie back there, right? That kind of situation. So my question is, do we have the resources? I understand from Councilwoman Camp's comment that we lack maybe in the mental health side as far as support, but as far as the rest of the supports go, are we, and I could probably answer or ask Councilman Cummings as well. I know he's involved in that world, but do you feel like we have what is going to be needed in the community in place to help support those areas?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
The other thing I add to that is what we can provide in that regard is suggestions about how to structure it, what kind of resources might be most helpful. And the beauty of this is that I think that we get to mutually together between Craig and those of us that are coming from Grand Junction to build a network. And it's amazing when you start doing that, the other resources that tend to surface that none of us may even be aware of that are in surrounding other areas, but where we can collaboratively do much more together than we can individually. And that's one of the things that I think is particularly unique about this situation, is that we get the chance to pioneer something in that regard. You know, Mine Springs already is operating in 10 counties on the western slope. Who knows what that kind of partnership might be able to produce. So there's all kinds of, for lack of a better term, the tide raises everybody's ship when we begin looking at it together and saying, what can we do together that we might not be able to do as well separate?
I appreciate the philosophy completely, just so you know that, and I hope that my questions weren't curt by any chance. I was just we work for the citizens of Craig. These are the concerns I've heard in the community, so I feel it my obligation to address or ask those. So thank you for your answers and your honesty on that. I do very much appreciate that. And it doesn't fit exactly, but it reminds me of, you know, it takes an entire village to raise a child, right? So I agree with the philosophy that if there's any way, shape, and form that this helps either community in both directions, it seems like a very viable option to me. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And next steps? What's your next steps?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm actually going to go get something to eat.
Okay, fair enough.
What's Hannah's next step?
So we'll be drafting an LO or a letter of intent for the ESGCV2, apply for the grant, hopefully receive an award letter, get the funds dispersed.
And so at this point, you won't be obligated to your pit day or your pit count because you're not quite organized?
Right, yeah, we don't use HMIS yet, so it wouldn't We don't use HMIS yet, so it wouldn't, it's not required,
Got it.
but it would be cool.
Okay. Are you going to try on an unofficial level to see what you can provide in that information?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's on my list to talk about at dinner.
Okay. All right. All right. Anything else, council?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
One last thing. If we should apply for the CFG and get an award, one thing you need to know as council is that because they give us an award, and let's hypothetically say we go down the road 5 or 6 months, and it does not appear that there is either a verifiable need or a facility that you can put together. The fact that you've gotten an award letter doesn't mean anything other than you would go back to ESG and turn the award letter back over. So you're not obligated, the county is not obligated for anything other than it's time to get that grant application in now when the money's available.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
Thank you. So
Yep. Yep. Thank you.
Enjoy dinner.
Yeah.
We will. Good questions, Paul. Good stuff.
Okay, up next is our consent agenda, which we do not have one tonight. So we'll move on to public hearing, which we do not have either. So that takes us to item 9A, and that is resolution number 1, 2021, a resolution designating the public place for posting notices pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 2C.
Motion to approve Resolution 1, 2021.
The motion was made by Councilman Nichols, seconded by Councilman James, to accept resolution number 1, 2021, a resolution designating the public place for posting notices pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 2C. Heather, is there anything you wanted to add to that tonight, just before we voted on it?
So specifically, no, not with regard to that.
Okay, okay, all right. Thank you, ma'am. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. And before we move forward, Heather, just so make sure I'm correct on this, this is per charter, City Craig, right?
For the next,
No, we have to, at this point in time, this is what our charter requires, right, is adopt a resolution,
for A and B.
A and B, correct? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
And required public posting
Right.
requirements from the state as well.
Right.
Right. Okay, up next is item 9B, and that is resolution number 2, 2021, a resolution declaring the Craig Press the official newspaper of the city of Craig, Colorado. Heather, would you like to speak to that at all?
Sure. So, one of the things in 2019 that happened with the open records law is there really was an enlargement where they actually encouraged and it's allowed for there to be electronic forms of posting. So, for instance, on a city's website. Right now, within our charter, Article 2, Section 13, and Article 7, Section 3, both require that we publish within a newspaper. And so right now, via the charter, we clearly have to do that, for certain things such as any ordinances or with regard to notice for the budget. Certainly, this is something that I think that we could bring up in charter review committee if we're, wanting to do that. I know other municipalities, such as Delta, I think they were the most recent that I saw, actually had ballot amendments to amend their charter that would allow for them to go away from posting in the newspaper and allow them to post on their website, and there's several advantages to that. One would be that you're not paying to post or these publications within the newspaper, so that would obviously save the city money. Another argument that they made is it's easier to access the information via city websites because they're just easier to read than trying to find all of this information in newspapers. So there were a lot of advantages, and I know the voters in Delta overwhelmingly supported that ballot measure. So that's something I think that we could definitely discuss in charter review committee.
Okay, okay, thank you for that. Council, any questions on that? Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I would look for a motion then, council.
Mayor, I will move to approve resolution number 2, 2021.
I will second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Camp, seconded by Councilman Cummings to approve resolution number 2, 2021, a resolution declaring the Craig Press the official newspaper of the city of Craig, Colorado. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Duly noted, motion carries. Thank you, council. You messed up my process here on my paper. Now I gotta scratch stuff out. I love that about you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I get it. I get it. Okay. Up next is item 9C, resolution number 3, 2021. A resolution transferring fiscal agent of all crimes enforcement team fund from the city of Craig to Moffett County.
I can address that.
Okay.
Address that. The city took this on way back in 2005. Over time, I think Jerry can confirm this, that certain agencies take a lead in doing it. And the Moffett County finally stepped up and said, you know, we can take it on for a while. So we've been doing this for the last 15 years. Jerry's been approving bills, overseeing. There is an executive board of the All Task Force. And so Jerry's been trying to talk to them over the years. Somebody else take it on for a while. And so Moffett County did pass a resolution that they would be fiscal agent of it. And so the board approved it. And so this is just authorizing staff to go ahead and close that account out and send it over to there. And they will take care of the bills and the fiscal agent of it.
Okay.
So we're saving money.
Oh.
Well, it's...
No, we're probably saving some man hours.
Yes.
Man hours
yes.
and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because it sounds like the
You
chief.
gonna vote for this one then? Yeah. Yeah.
We're making this Ryan's problem, it sounds like.
I'll vote for it then.
Yeah, right. Chief, if I understand this correctly, I know we've had a couple conversations in the past. You alluded to, Bruce, the kind of oversight committee. That's like a person or I don't know who that is in each community, but it's all the counties, right, that are represented have a person on that board.
The executive board.
Yep.
There's the chief from Steamboat.
Oh, thank you.
The chief from Steamboat, sheriff from Routt County, the chief from Hayden, and myself, and Sheriff Boone, then also the DA's office is involved in it. So they have a board member on there.
And so this in no way, shape, or form changes that board. It's just a matter of letting the county write the checks. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Any other questions, council?
Well, if it's for Jerry.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve resolution 3, 2021.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Nichols, seconded by Councilman Mazuka, to approve resolution number 3, 2021, a resolution transferring fiscal agent of all crimes enforcement team fund asset from the city of Craig to Moffett County. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Turning red, does that mean it's dying?
Because you talk too much.
That was all them questions tonight. You killed the microphone. Way to go, sir.
I just got tired of listening.
I've got a button over here.
A mute button?
I bet I got some employees that would appreciate that.
There you go. Up next is item 9D, and that is a letter of interest from Tom Gilchrist to serve as alternate on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for a 3-year term. There he is.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. Last year, Parks and Recreation, we put out solicited for advertisement for individuals to serve on our Parks and Rec Board. We were unsuccessful. So moving into this year, we were very surprised and excited. Mr. Gilchrist hooked up with us and wanted to be part of our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. So this term will be an alternate position. It's a 3-year term, and recommend Mr. Gilchrist that you approve that. So we're excited. He's be a great addition. He has experience on the board, prior experience, so we're excited with his enthusiasm and passion. So we appreciate you. Yeah. Do you want to say anything?
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
No, I turned an application in and, I'm sorry, I turned an application in. I kind of says it there, I guess. I really have always enjoyed the Parks and Recreation program, and Craig, it's just, they cover the board on everything. Everybody in that department is enthusiastic about having an outstanding department, and I think that really shows around our town. So pretty easy to want to be a part of that. So thank you.
And Tom, you serve on the Planning and Zoning Board currently, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And this won't interfere in your snow blowing endeavors?
It could.
It could. Okay. Okay. Because if it does, you understand I'm going to have some complaints, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Council, what's your pleasure on that?
I'll move that we appoint Tom Gilchrist as an alternate member on the Parks and Rec Board.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Nichols, seconded by Councilman Hess to appoint Mr. Gilchrist to the alternate position on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board for a 3-year term. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir, and good luck.
Thanks for your service.
That's right. How many applications did you get, sir?
Just his.
That's what I was going to guess. All right, all right. Thank you again.
Actually, thank you.
Tom, anyway.
All right, up next is item 9E, approval of a site plan for Mountain Man Taxidermy located at 1350 Yampa Avenue. Arlen?
Hello, Council and Mayor. I've got some extra paper copies if anybody needs one. Would you like one? Since you don't have one in front of you there. Okay, so Mountain Man Taxidermy is looking at moving their taxidermy shop down to 1350 North Yampa Avenue. If you look at like the third page there, it just has a satellite picture with the lot highlighted in red there of where it's located at. And so they've already done considerably amount of work there to make it look better by removing those two or three old mobile homes and a couple old houses that was there. So they've got a lot slicked off there. So they're looking at getting started on that ASAP. So it's 3,500 square foot building, open to the public for a taxidermy shop. The shop they're currently in also has a game processing business, but that's a separate business. So it won't be moving down there. It'll just be the taxidermy shop. And so we had a meeting with Planning and Zoning, and they approved it. They approved the site plan 4-0. So I'd attach the minutes for you guys too there, so you could review those over the discussion and everything that was held with the Planning and Zoning. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that so far.
Doesn't look like it, sir.
Okay, so the basic site plan is, go back down there, Bruce. Yep, that basic site plan right there. It's kind of overlaid in the background is kind of an actual location of where it's going on Google Earth to some degree. So we're using the existing access on the northeast corner of the property off of 13 there, and they have their required parking spaces, pavement, that sort of thing. And so all the utility companies have confirmed that they'll provide service to there, and I did not have them do a full signed Mylar plat because I figure businesses in 2020 are having a hard enough time making it, and to make them do that additional work for that. So, like I said, it meets all of the land use code. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about the actual site plan there.
I just about the utility easement that runs to the, I guess, east. 20-foot utility easement, is that enough room there? And they all signed? So the north, I guess it's the north corner? Is that the building? No.
So there's a utility easement running along what would be the west side of the property, and then there's a utility easement, 20-foot utility and drainage easement along the south side of the property.
Yeah, the utility easement. That was the only thing that looked kind of close, but.
Yep, and so the building setbacks are plenty off of all the property lines, as you can see in the memo to planning and zoning. The setbacks are it's 71 feet from the front and 16 from the north, 120 feet from the south, and 66 feet from the rear. So it's a pretty good buffer zone around all the neighbors. They're locating their dumpster, as you can see in the site plan, they're locating their dumpster over in the southeast corner, kind of tucked away to where it shouldn't cause any issues if there is anything in there that might smell or anything like that, which there's not a whole lot usually with taxidermy stuff, but they position that to where it ain't going to be right next door to anybody.
No, I think you cleaned the lot up pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Already looks better, like you said.
And I'll hand these out. The only thing. This is kind of that same picture, except I sent out 18 letters to.
This is very glossy.
So I sent out 18 letters to all the surrounding property owners. I got one letter back in support of it, and I got the only email that was not in support of it is the one I attached to this picture. So I figured I would let you guys be aware of that. However, me and planning and zoning both agreed due to its location, I can't see there being much of an issue. It's not a detriment to that property in my opinion, especially since it's a permitted use in that zone. That map right there, if you look along 13th Street, I have it highlighted there where it says 17 West 13th. That's the gentleman that sent the email not in favor of it. So I'll let you read that.
Is it true that his concern about the shop being open till midnight during season? Is that something that?
I don't know what their actual business, and they can come up here when I'm done presenting here and you can ask them any questions you'd like to, but I don't know about necessarily business hours. I'm sure during fall and winter time that's a possibility. Sure. However, I don't see anything with this site plan having lighting issues or noise issues that would be a detriment to adjacent property owners, in my opinion. Like I said, the owners would be able to probably answer that when we're done here more thorough than that. But so we didn't feel like it's much of a, the game processing that's at their place now is probably more detrimental to surrounding people, but it's not going to be in this building. It's a different business, so it'll just be the taxidermy shop. So everything is basically done indoors, so I wouldn't imagine even late night hours there would be too much of a detriment. But
is there any tanning of the hides, and is that part of the process that happens there, or? No.
Hey,
so
would you guys like to step up here just so we can probably have a couple questions for you, I'm sure. Yeah. Introduce yourselves, please.
Scott Moore.
I don't have to sing the national anthem.
No, I didn't ask you to sing it, but.
And I'm Jennifer Bugay.
Yeah, we noticed you kind of passed that on.
Yeah.
I've been here a long time.
So his concerns about offensive operations as far as seeing dead animals or, I know when I've had things mounted, it's just the back, the back cape and the trophies, and there's no dead animals there, right?
No.
Usually.
We've tried to lay things out to mitigate any from the highway especially. The only possible would be we plan on doing boiling skulls on the back side of the building. But there again, that's not going to be visible from the highway. We're putting a garage door in. You want to bring your deer in, he's back in. We're inside. There's not going to be a lot of outside work being done.
You would boil the skulls outside potentially, not inside the building? Okay. Yep. And when you say backside, you're referring to kind of the west side of the...
Yes, the west side. Yep.
Okay. What do you think your business hours would look like?
So we're typically open from 8 to 8 through hunting season. That doesn't mean we're not there till midnight. But I don't foresee being outdoors, running any equipment, running a pressure washer, doing anything much past dark, really. There's just it's not feasible.
Marlon, as far as the lighting, is it all on the building, the exterior lighting?
Yeah, this parking lot wasn't large enough to require any kind of lighting, so any exterior lighting will be on the building with down shades, you know what I mean, just to project walkways and that sort of thing. But
so no concern for light pollution, like they call it?
Right, and there shouldn't be any on the parking lot side and the south side. The east side and the south side will be about the only one, unless they have a little bit of security lighting along the back. They haven't got. There's a few little details that always have to get worked into that as they get the building done. This has been kind of a quick push. That's why we had a December. Right before Christmas P&Z meeting, because they're needing, sounds like, get out of their other place, so they're still wanting to break ground this year if possible. If I believe that's still the plan. So, but yeah, we'll definitely make sure there's no lighting that's going to be a hindrance, detriment to the neighbors in any way, for sure.
Marlon, where did you say this property owner sits? I think I know, right off of 13th there on the corner.
Is that your mark on this picture?
Yep. He's a ways away.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
He's a good ways away.
Yeah, he's a ways away. There's actually a fence in between those two. So I was looking if there was any reason to maybe try to require a fence or anything, but that wouldn't help that particular landowner in any way.
So no fence around this particular property then?
There hasn't been proposed one at this time.
Just was curious.
Yeah.
And this is a regular permitted use in that mixed-use zone?
Mixed-use zone, this is a permitted use, so no variances to apply for or anything like that. And so the only thing that I made a note of with planning and zoning is the back wall is 70 feet long. We have in our land use code that you can't have blank windowless walls over 50 feet long. However, there is a exception in the land use code that says if approved by planning and zoning and you guys, that if it's not in view of the general public. Well, with it being on that west side, I didn't feel like that was, making them do anything on that back side was going to be beneficial. The front side, as you can see on the, it's kind of small, but on the site plan itself, there's a front view of the building down on the bottom left-hand side, and it kind of shows it has it has windows and obviously the front door and a little gable end roof and stuff that comes out right there. Sure. So the front 70-foot wall will be fine. Just that back 70-foot wall. It's technically 20 foot over our blank wall standards, but seeing the location, us in planning and zoning didn't feel that was going to be a detriment in our opinion. But
thank you for being fair and reasonable in the eyes of development. Yeah. Thank you. I will say that.
I mean, I'll just say, looking at that drawing, I think this is going to be a beautiful building. It'll be a really nice addition to that area. Yeah. I've already, driven by and thought it looked great, just getting that lot cleaned up.
Just a dirt lot.
Yeah, just a significant improvement. So Yeah. So no, I'm excited. I look forward to seeing it as it comes together. I think that'll be a nice improvement.
And they did give us a landscape, a basic landscape plan there. I am going to give them credit for some of the existing trees that are there, as long as they're in decent enough shape to, and then they'll be planting some more, a couple more, and some all their shrubs and irrigated landscaping and that sort of thing.
Don't go
It'll
too
be
hard on my hand-drawn landscaping plan.
I was gonna ask you if this was a deciduous tree.
That was not the contractor, that was me.
I'm not an artist.
smaller mom and pop shops. I try to save them a little on architectural renderings and all that stuff.
Sure.
What I can, anyhow, you know.
Appreciate that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
If it's Walmart, it's a different story, you know.
Fair enough.
Then there's a floor plan there also. Just shows basic. Gonna have a little under 1,000 square foot showroom, ADA bathroom. Rest of it just kind of working area. So only requires 10 parking spaces based on the square footage and the use.
And it is paved, you said, right?
It is paved, yep. The site plan there shows paved. It's not highlighted per se, but it is paved, asphalt, parking, paved area that goes around the back. Now, the only thing I did not, since they wanted to put that dumpster over to where it would be as least intrusive as possible, they are going to have a concrete apron in front of that, but they were just planning on graveling to that dumpster. I thought that was still reasonable.
As long as the city trash truck can get down there.
Yeah. And so.
Well, and you have asphalt apron clear to the highway, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, it's completely reasonable.
And asphalt will go around, it'll go around to the garage door that's on their first drawing that the lady did for them was a little easier to see that, but there's also a 20-foot wide strip of pavement that's going to go back and then 90 back into their garage door on the southwest corner of the building.
Got it.
Yep.
Now, is the dumpster away from the neighbor that's concerned about smells and?
It's in like the southeast corner of the property, Chris.
It's funny, it's the closest to the neighbor who's in support.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I just don't want him in here next time saying he's got all these odors now and, you know.
And part of why we placed the dumpster there is the prevailing winds is going to blow it away from anybody that might complain.
Right to Fortification Creek, it looks like.
Yeah. It already stinks.
Yeah, right. I mean,
where's Paul live up there? No.
I grew up playing in that
caddy corner.
It will have a dumpster enclosure, 12-foot wide dumpster enclosure and everything, and so.
Yep.
So.
I think it's a good project.
Yep.
So too. Yeah.
Council, what would be your pleasure if you don't have any more questions?
Make a motion to approve the site plan for Mountain Man Taxidermy located at 1350 Yampa Avenue.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Mazuka and seconded by Councilman James to approve the site plan for Mountain Man Taxidermy located at 1350 Yampa Avenue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for cleaning up that area.
Oh, all right.
I'm hoping we had some remodel work done inside the bank, and so it should be done next week, I believe. So we're looking at somewhere around the 20th. We were trying to wait until that was done.
Makes sense.
Because it's loud and noisy and messy.
That's fair.
But if you need him, call me. I'll let you.
I don't know how I feel about the extra step, but I guess I'll deal with it.
Thank you.
What's
that? Yeah.
All right, up next is item 9F, and that is discussion to fill open board committee positions left open by outgoing council member Tony Boyer. So, Peter, we talked about this, I think, putting it on the agenda this evening. Basically, there's a couple of options. We could simply say this is what Tony was doing. So guess what? This is what you will be doing. We also have the opportunity to look at this if someone would like to move around a bit, or if there's something you're not interested in that Tony was doing. And I also am comfortable with council. We don't have to make all these decisions tonight. We could think about it and move forward and have more discussion at the next meeting. So I don't know that I could be any more accommodating than that actually. So.
And I don't have a problem picking up where Tony left, so that would be okay by me if you wanted to do that.
Okay, and council, you do have the opportunity to, there's something out there that Tony was on that you're vying for. I think we're just open for conversation, basically.
I will just bring it to your attention, Bruce. Club 20 is an organization that we have a membership to, but typically those meetings are in Grand Junction and sometimes Denver. They only happen, I believe, twice a year. Peter, is that correct? Spring and fall?
Mainly spring and fall.
Yeah, but just, you know, FYI, that is something you would travel to. And you don't have to go and attend if it's more than one day, you know, if you can be there for part of it or whatever. But, you know, if you needed someone to partner up and be like, I could make this or whatever, I'm actually the alternate for that. So as long as I knew in advance, you know, I'd be happy to help out with that. But that's just one that you might want to give a little consideration to.
And
as I travel right now, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, you're gonna add a little more travel.
Just add a few more hours in the seat, huh?
Yeah,
And right now, are those Zoom?
I would assume so, right?
I'm sure a lot of them are virtual.
I would assume, right? I just, and probably moving forward in this brave new world we live in, that's probably going to be an option for just about everything. I know, it's terrible. Yeah. And apparently, my name's highlighted everywhere, so everything I'm doing is up for grabs as well, it looks like. So you guys just jump in there if there's something.
I know, it's like, are we giving away Jared?
I know, right? Yeah.
But it just says that you have the option.
Yeah. I gotta just float around, I guess. So, council, not hearing a lot.
Nope.
If he's willing to take them, are we saying jump in with both feet?
He's willing to take them. You know, too often you're kind of appointed to some of these, you know.
Yeah. How many are there?
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the ones up above kind of are usually attended by several of us. I think Councilman Hess brought that to our attention. That was a difference there. I would say that Human Resource Council is right up your alley, just guessing. But glad to see you on that. Club 20, Colorado River District, Crisis Intervention Team. And then wasn't Tony on, we have what is that group he was doing where they met?
That was a wildlife.
Wildlife, thank you, that was the
that
word.
appointed through the state some
And
way.
that's someone who represents like all the municipalities, is that correct?
And Tony was going to actually still be on that somehow, right? County representative. Oh, yeah. So are we not needing representation from the city level? I
thought that was a private thing that he was doing.
Yeah,
Is that
the state.
Okay.
the council? Yeah.
I thought just because he was a guide and outfitter, you know, I mean.
Exactly.
Seemed to fit in pretty good, right? Okay. Well, do you need, it looks like a general census. Is that sufficient for Liz or Peter or whoever's?
Yeah, we'll just,
Looks like we'll just scratch off Mr. Boyer and.
exactly.
Okay.
I was gonna say I'd like to be on joint services if.
Oh, there we go. Speak up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to have you.
Yeah. Is that acceptable? That's between you two, I guess. Is that acceptable?
If you want to take it, take it.
Yeah, I'd like.
It's an open meeting. I think
Anybody can join it. Yeah.
I was gonna say we have that option as well. I think both of you could come. We wouldn't.
Yeah, because there's already 3 of us there.
But if 4 of us got there, would that pose an issue, Heather?
It's 3, right?
Well, there's no bylaws with that.
It doesn't like we're forming a quorum at that meeting.
3 is a quorum.
Well,
Okay.
There's already
posted, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Meetings are posted.
Just wanting to make sure.
Hey, and then I'm still on for the county commissioners, and we had talked about that. That is an absolute no-go. There's nothing I can do to get out of. If I'm dead, I have to be at work on Tuesday morning.
Oh, okay.
If you're
So
dead.
there's literally.
I'm gonna go some Tuesday just.
So yeah, Tuesday mornings are definitely a no-go. I have got to be at the the shop.
You think the commissioners will change the meeting for you?
You know, maybe now. I tend
do
to
have maybe
actually
some
know a
more
couple
pull
of them
now.
quite well, so. But yeah, no, that is
How are
one
Thursdays
thing.
for you?
Thursdays, you know, Thursdays actually work very well. I have nothing going on.
Are commissioners now only meeting like every other week?
I have no idea. I have not been able to go to them. Yeah, just it's something.
Bi-monthly, first and third.
Yeah, my reasoning I'm not going to publicly announce, but I discussed it with Jared, and it's just there's no way I can get out of that.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot to bring that up. So.
No worries. But yeah, I mean, obviously they have made great decisions without me last year throughout it, so I don't think it made much difference. But yeah.
So you're throwing it out there for anybody who might be interested in attending?
That's just one thing that I can't. I do think my life has actually changed in the last couple weeks. I'm actually probably going to be able to show up to some of these other ones now. So that's kind of cool. But the county commissioners I just cannot do. Tuesday mornings are no-go. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays are super.
When is it? The first and
First and third Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning. Till how long do they
I
last?
didn't get up that
They could go. They could be. Sometimes they're way shorter than our meetings, and sometimes they go on and on and on. So it really you have to have a pretty flexible schedule for that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Azuka, I'm assuming you're out probably.
Yeah, there's no way I could do Tuesday mornings.
I'm struggling on that. I could possibly make it work, but
I can probably do it. So.
Okay.
I can do it too, so.
Okay.
Flip a coin.
Yeah.
You got it.
Look at that. Chris is used to losing those.
I think that's the best thing that happened all night.
Right,
Right there.
right. I think we
should take that one and
the probability of a coin.
Yeah, that
Sure.
works.
Yep.
Yeah.
take
Okay.
that one
If
instead.
you can't make it, I'll go. So whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So who's our alternate on that? So that's Peter, I believe, right? Did I read that correctly?
That's what it says, yeah.
Do you still? I mean, you can still go regardless.
Yeah, I don't care if I'm.
Chris is sounding like he really would like to take it off your plate in an alternate fashion.
I know you enjoy it. If you can't make it, I'll go.
Okay.
Just text me or call me.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Here's our one employee. If we tell him to go, he's got to go.
Okay.
No, I guess I'm the alternate, right? Okay.
Okay. Yep. Sounds like it to me, sir.
Delegating is rather fantastic.
So did Steve go to joint service?
Yes.
Yeah, if everybody's good with it.
And then Councilman Cummings will take everything Tony had, with the exception of joint services. And then we're going to remove Paul from county commissioners, put Councilman Cummings there. We'll remove you, Peter, as alternate, and put Chris.
Yep.
And anything else while it's up for discussion? Sounds like a no. Okay. Trevor, you look bored. Anything you want to join?
Yeah.
Need to go to some more meetings.
Okay, up next is that enough direction for you, Liz? Are you good? Okay, thank you. Nope, no problem. Staff reports. Chief? Speaking to the mic, sir.
I got one now.
Okay.
The only thing that I have that's not in the report, Dixie Beck on the 29th of December, after 30 plus years at the police department, retired. And also on the 15th, Josh Lyons, we hired him. He would have been here 3 years in April. And when we hired him, he said, I'll give you 2. He's the one that, when I introduced to council, was originally from New York. He went back to New York, and he's going to go to law school. He put his application into several law schools in the New York area, and he said he's going to specialize in defending police officers. So, but he went back to, and that's where all his family lives, is back in the New York State area. He told me I even wrote it down when I introduced him, and I couldn't pronounce the name in front of you guys, and I'm not even going to try tonight. So, and the only other thing crime-wise is unemployment. Their computers got hacked, and so we're taking several reports on, hey, we got this letter, or we got this card, and it's kind of spread out a little bit today because the county had 2 calls for the same thing that we've been dealing with. We haven't had, you know, tons of them, but they're out there, so we're just dealing with them. And if, you know, we write a report if they received the card to get the money. If they just got a letter, we're not doing a report yet. And that just helps protect the citizens when they get the card, so.
If I get the card, I'm going to determine if it works first or not, and then I will call you guys, okay?
That's when you'll probably get in trouble.
But it doesn't have your bank account. That's the problem.
I actually am one of those individuals who filed an unemployment claim against his employer, apparently. I was notified yesterday. So, yeah. If I get any information, I will bring it to you. Okay. Yeah, we've had several, unfortunately.
Have any questions of me?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Based on Hannah's presentation tonight, how big is our homeless problem? And you know, what you deal with, and there's two individuals that are chronic, right?
Yeah, and I guess how you look at homeless. I mean, I think they're taking a very broad view of if you're staying with friends because you can't afford anything, but to say flat homeless, they have no place to stay, or they choose not to have a place to stay, there's 2 or 3, and that's it. But if, you know, the couch surfing and things of that nature, if you're counting that, well, there's several in our community that go from place to place, but they also have other issues. I mean, they've got substance abuse, mental health issues, so.
Okay. This would pull, do you think, some of the crime? You know, if they have a stable environment, they're not going to be breaking into abandoned buildings, or?
Well, I'm going to have a conversation next week, early next week, with the assistant chief in Grand Junction and a corporal that works that area. So I'll have more information next week to see what they experienced.
Right. It would be interesting if we can measure, a decrease maybe in some of the break-ins, or, you know, I don't know if you can classify that type of incident to, you know, people that are homeless or without resources in that regard. So it'd be interesting just to, if we go down that route, what we can expect maybe.
Yeah, and let me have that conversation, and then, you know, I'll be a little bit more well-versed on what Grand Junction has experienced.
Cool. Thanks.
Couple of questions, Chief. It was, I don't know, unofficially or officially reported that we might be losing an officer. Can you speak to that, or you don't have to if?
We're gonna lose an officer.
Okay.
Our SRO.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Because of some other issues.
Okay. All right. The other thing, and you came in kind of the tail end of our conversation with CDOT. One of the things that it looks like was being proposed is to, what's that word again? Trevor? Devolution. There's the word. I just want to say revolution, right? I keep watching YouTube videos.
Don't do that. They're going to remove you from
I know.
office.
I better be careful, right? Pelosi will be after me tomorrow. You watch.
They're going to remove you. They're going to impeach you.
So the conversation is that we would potentially entertain the idea of taking on and the ownership of the frontage road from Finley to basically the west side of Vallarta's, where it turns back into Highway 40, which are putting a new roof on that motel, which I'm sure you're well aware of. That's another question. Sorry, just thought of thinking that. We as council like the idea that if it comes to us, it comes maintenance free for 8 to 10 years, according to Trevor. It's best assumptions on new asphalt, and also the idea of trying to get those accesses. There's 3 or 4 along that frontage road, kind of between Finley and Walmart, that are a bit of a safety issue. I'm assuming you would agree with that, just as far as traffic and.
Well, when I kind of walked in, that's not our busiest place for traffic accidents.
Okay.
I mean, you know, we have more traffic accidents at stoplights, stop signs
Okay.
that are clearly, like T intersections or through intersections. But I can do a little research to
Sure.
see, but I can't remember of an accident there in a long time.
Okay.
On any of those.
So my question to you would be, initially, it sounds great to just get rid of all that access. My concern, council's concern, is for the businesses. Now all of a sudden you have to, one into the other to get to them. Where we're used to just like, throwing on the blinker and doing a Hail Mary through there. The car wash. Right? Would it be beneficial from a response point of view to have at least maybe one central access still kind of in that between?
Two on the ends and some.
Yes, yes, from what I understand.
I think it would be better for law enforcement, fire, and ambulance to have something.
As well as businesses access. Okay. So, and I believe, so we've asked Trevor and Peter to kind of get together and decide how to move forward. It's a timely manner. State wants to offer you something, but you got to jump and do it right now. So, we're going to start doing that, but there'll be some conversation. So, Trevor, if you'll reach out to the chief and make sure he's involved in that, and we'll see how that goes. And I wouldn't mind myself being involved, so we talked to the businesses about that. Anything else for the chief? Before I move on, Marlon, what's going on there at the motel? I can't remember the name of it. Is it the Black Nugget?
Yeah, new gentleman bought it and turning it into longer-term rentals.
Hmm.
Which is a little bit involved. I'm kind of working with making some of this into taking 2 rooms and making 1 suite out of it instead. And then that roof, Jennison put that roof on about 3 years ago, so it still had like 12 years left on the warranty. But he goes, nope, I want a pitched roof on it, so he's paying Jennison to put a pitched roof on it.
There you go. All right. Fair enough.
He's doing some upgrades to it and stuff.
Okay. Okay.
That's where they're at on it, and they're doing some longer-term rentals. Sometime building departments get pretty stringent when they go from short-term motel to, not because fire code or anything changes, just because you don't have full kitchens, yada, yada. However, with affordable places to live anyhow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We worked with them on that and stuff, and so they're gonna be more like monthly rentals or longer-term rentals instead of a motel, and that's what, it's kind of been a wave across the US. That was the 4th one. I've gotten 3 calls on other little smaller hotels and 200 and some, one of the larger hotels, but it's not zoned for it, so they couldn't do it anyway. But that's what a lot of people are going to. You don't make as much, but you don't have near as much overhead. You don't have as many employees, and so a lot of people are making longer-term rentals instead of short-term nightly stay type of hotels and hotels.
So almost like that transitional housing that group was referring to after the initial homeless shelter. It almost is, this is like the next step for some folks, right? Interesting.
Providence bought it for. Providence had it as a sober living place.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they had it for, and they never did anything with it, but they had it for a little while, and then this gentleman bought it. He also owns the Lone Pine.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, yep, that's what we got going there.
Great, thank you.
I have one question for Marlon.
Sure.
Since you opened the door. We talked a while back about changing zoning to allow tiny houses, or what our minimum square footage is. Looking at that, are we down the road on?
I've went back and forth, but I do have a file full of information. I've had a few different people hit me up on it a little bit. I think we just have a 600 square foot minimum now. For any that can be built anywhere, 600 square foot's the minimum, but it almost, in my opinion, needs to be designated to a certain zone, a certain area, so that we don't have tiny homes splattered amongst, and that sort of thing. So Bruce Timberg hit me up on it with some property he owns. It almost kind of, the driving force sometimes is when somebody submits something and goes, this is what I'd like to do here. You know what I mean? Right. And sometimes you adapt an ordinance a little more, you know what I mean? There's not a ton, I've investigated, there's not tons of ordinances out there that you can kind of piggyback off of and kind of just photocopy that would fit Craig as much.
Sure.
So we kind of have to see what somebody proposed to some degree. But obviously when they do that, then we do need something that we can
Would it behoove the city or the planning department to look at our zoning and try to get ahead of the game? Because it feels like something that is coming. I mean, it feels like kind of this new thing. And look at the idea of where would this fit best in, Craig? You know, I mean, I look over at the map there, and you know, potentially maybe there's one or two zoning areas, right, that this type of subdivision, if you will,
right,
is where you know it would maybe fit best in, Craig. Is that something?
I'm seeing a lot more in Milner too, as I drive to Steamboat every day. They're building more and more. Huh?
Meeker's got one too.
Oh, they do?
There's
Yep.
developers right now that would like to go into some of the mobile home parks that have some of your very old abandoned trailers and pull those out and put tiny homes instead of those.
That's what I would like to see. It's an economically better, feasible, you know what I mean, plan there, because a large part of the of a home like that, unless you just really can have a room constraint, like you don't have any lots big enough, is you know, yeah, utilities, all those things. A lot of your cost, I kind of did some figures. It costs to build a 250 square foot tiny home, let's say, in the same location. It's about 85% as costs about 85% as much as it does to build a 600 square foot home.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the structure, the shell's not a lot of the cost. You know what I mean? You get this, you end up with the same utilities, the same type of heat, the same, you know what I mean, tap.
Sure.
So a lot of your costs stay the same, and a few of your costs diminish a little bit. So you always got to look at, are you doing somebody a favor? You know what I mean? Also, when you look at it that way, so your cost per square footage really go up.
Sure.
And then your ability to get rid of it later goes down. You know what I mean? So,
Sure.
but I have no problems with it whatsoever. I like
Sure.
the minimalist idea. You know what I mean? But like the ones in Milner are $168,000. You know, and you have to living space.
Really?
And they're building them all like in one lot, right? It's like 4 into a lot or some craziness. Yeah.
You know, so
It's probably like him and his wife and his kids, right?
Yeah. Go to your house.
Yeah, that's right. Go home.
anyhow, it's,
Heather's like, I like this idea.
anyhow, so but
Yeah.
it is on my plate. I need to.
Okay.
I do need to spend a few days and actually come up with something that I think a location than what it would look like for actually ordinance. I really like I've heard the same thing that for some of these old rundown, I would think it would be great down on 4th Street, just down the street here where we have all
Sure.
the newest trailers, 1958 and
It's been for sale, and that's been kind of on the map, going in there and putting those in, but.
Except they'd have to subdivide each lot or sell.
Because you could put like 2 homes where a single trailer would be before.
those lots are very small. They're very narrow. They're like 25 by whatever, you know what I mean? So
Tiny home with a yard.
they'd be something to put some little 300 or 400 square foot homes that were built decent and still had your taps, you know, and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And streets
Keep your costs down.
Streets are in, yada yada.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe be better than pulling in mobile homes, that sort of.
Sure.
But
You know, I haven't had any specific requests for tiny homes, but we've had a number of seniors come in and ask about park models, which are a little bit larger. I think tiny homes are 200 square feet, and park models can go up to like 400 or 450 or something like that as they rank them. And you've seen the park models probably down in the Phoenix area or places like that, and they put this little bumper room on the outside of them a lot of times that where in the summertime they have a little extra space to lounge on kind of a patio-like situation. But we have seniors that are snowbirds. They head south, in the wintertime. In the summer, they'd like to be up here and have a park model on this end. And
Be a great use for the old hospital site there.
Yeah.
that was one of our main spots.
We're
we
talking.
looking at that, and even if the city did some development and then sold the lots off, and people, because I've had 3 older couples that say, because there's a lot of elderly people that they don't care how many jobs there are in Craig. They want to stay here because their family's here or whatever.
You don't want to maintain 2,000 square feet.
But they have a ranch, and the only option is, unless they want to spend a whole pile of money, is to come to Craig and buy something that needs a ton of maintenance, a ton of upkeep.
Sure.
$150,000 house around here needs about everything done to it. You know, that's
Yeah.
what they're trying to get away from.
I think
So-
we were talking about patio homes on that site, Marlon, over there at the hospital, but,
Well, that,
Um,
yeah, right, yeah, we talked.
but, I don't know, what's the zoning like? Would that accommodate a trailer
Well, that's what.
at that location?
If it went to mixed use, it would.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's what we'd have to look at and see
Have to rezone that area, yeah.
which way we're gonna yeah, so, but, yeah, I think something like that's gonna be a, like you said, for elderly people or people just starting out, something low
Sure.
maintenance and smaller and everything.
I've had a couple people talk to me about the senior, I don't know what you call them, but.
Park models.
Yeah. So you have some that they can pull their RV in and some they can just leave and come out.
And a lot of times, if you could do them under an HOA so that you can, they don't have the maintenance, you know what I mean? So, and then you can also keep it looking a lot nicer, so it don't
Sure.
start looking like a trailer park again, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
a rundown trailer park, you know?
Right.
So you have something that's, you can force into an HOA, you know, do something like that sometimes, and retired people and stuff don't mind that, they just want something they don't wanna have to take care of
Right.
anyway, and still pretty cost effective for them, so.
Okay.
That's what we do at the hospital, because we could throw the covenants in the deed.
Do what?
Well, at the hospital, we have the covenants in the deed, so we could do the HOA and start it.
Yeah, we don't have it yet, but.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
hypothetically
could happen.
speaking,
It's supposed to happen.
Right, if they follow through on what they
Right.
initially said.
Yeah.
We could end up with it. Okay, last question for you, Marilyn, was the property north of the park on Lincoln? Have we got anywhere on that? Have we made any decisions?
Park on Lincoln.
That's,
That little narrow, tiny home lot.
Heather's working on getting a title commitment, and then I'm gonna have Epp and Associates have to do just a little ILC, and then we should be able to get the ball rolling on.
Okay.
Purchasing that, and then, Trevor's gonna go over there on a weekend on his own time and tear it down.
Nice, okay. Good job, Trevor.
You yourself.
The city will rent you the equipment cheaply, okay?
We went back and forth with her, and it ended up, we settled, and it's gonna cost us $4,000 for that lot.
Okay.
They wanted a little more, and I'm like, well, we've gotta do some, it's just.
Right.
4,000, so.
Okay.
Just gotta get the paperwork in order.
Well, that'll be nice to see that cleaned up. So, sorry to jump the gun, I hadn't heard anything in a while, I was curious where we were.
Yeah, then holidays hit.
Good.
Yeah, so.
Just green space for the park, is that,
All it's looking like right now, I think, just,
would it be better utilized as parking for the park?
maybe eventually, we talked about it with Dave Pike when he was here, you know, if we ever have a little extra money, either that or a restroom.
Sure.
Just costly, but I mean.
Combination of the two, maybe?
People do use that tennis court, surprisingly.
Pickleball, right? Am I using the right term?
Tiny home.
That place is busy in the, yeah.
Off-street parking to start with might not be bad if, you know.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, without any further ado, Mr. Brixius.
Okay. Well, I want to start off, have an announcement here that I was not pleased to hear recently, the last couple of days. We have a retirement announcement, and the gentleman sitting right there has given us three months' notice, and
Very gracious, 3 months, thank you.
Tony's still in it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You end up at the county?
Yeah. You know, he threatened that the last.
I
meeting,
know,
didn't
I
he?
know.
No, this will generate, I'm gonna work part-time for my son.
There you go. Some real stress. Nice.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, sir.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
But city should be in good hands.
well, we will be missed, but Bruce has set his department up well, and he's got some very talented people there, so, but I'm not looking forward to him leaving.
No, not at all.
If you need some help, well,
Great support.
let me know.
We just have to buy a hot
Good
dog
luck.
or what?
Wow.
I'm assuming your contracting rate's a lot higher. I'm just
Yeah.
assuming here.
Well, like I said, part-time. I told them if they need help, let me know.
Cool. Well, thank you. Well, congratulations.
And we'll be, like I said, retiring
We'd like to have location jacuzzis as part of the deal that we work out.
Okay, okay. All right. Are we paying him to work at his other job already? I don't think I like this.
Sell tiny homes with hot tubs.
Yeah, hot tub's twice the size as the living room.
Anyway, there'll be a very little get-together if that's going to be allowed in 3 months. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'll be a virtual send-off.
Nice.
Okay. We'll have a Zoom meeting. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Wednesday, the economic development management position. Tomorrow, we're going to do some quick screening interviews to kind of line up the more extensive interviews on the 19th or 20th. Melanie's trying to set that up with some of the other folks that have supplied grants. We're going to invite them into the discussion as well, so that we have about 20 applicants, 22 applicants, and we've narrowed that down to our top 6. So we'll see how that plays out. On Friday last week, Councilman Cummings and I and Trevor and Ryan and who else was involved in this? Mark, I think, is not with us tonight, apparently. We did a location tour, and I hope that was educational. It was
Very educational.
met a lot of people, a lot of employees, and
I enjoyed it.
yeah. So I appreciate the directors of each department getting with you and taking you around that day. We worked also with Kirsty McPherson in December to put together virtual site tours for the Opportunity Zone. We recorded those, and we also went to some locations that were outside of the Opportunity Zone that might be appealing to investors. So that information has attracted so far one investor phone call. So Kirsty is screening that person right now, and maybe it'll turn into something. We're not sure. But it's a good virtual way, at least, to promote the opportunities and different lots and locations throughout Craig to investors. Still working through the URA activity as we finalize the condition study, which is really close to completion, the tax forecast and the county impact reports. We've gotten lots of phone calls about the blight study, and I think most people are pretty supportive. On the 26th, the council is going to have to take up a resolution to form the authority, and so we'll look forward to that on the 26th. We're also meeting with a couple of the other taxing entities to present the URA to them, and the school district and the county will each have a representative on the authority. The city council, of course, will be the acting body as well. So there'll be 7 members from the council. We'll have 2 members one each from the school district and the county, and then a 3rd member that will be chosen from the other special districts. They have to appoint a single member to sit on that board. That makes 10. And then the council has the option, or actually the mayor has the option of selecting 1 more member. So we have an uneven number on the board, 11. And after that, we'll get into discussion once the authority is formed. We get through the URA condition study is finalized and the tax forecasts are set up. Then we'll get into the process of developing IGAs with each of the taxing districts, so that when an investor comes in and they're looking to understand what can be offered in terms of a property tax incentive, tax increment financing, or sales increment financing, each of the taxing entities will have already agreed as to what those potential numbers would look like in terms of how much incremental tax could be shared with an investor over how many years. And so It's a long process. It'll take us till July, August, possibly September to complete the process. Thursday afternoon, we are presenting, and Jared will be there to introduce the grant application at the next hearing for a Tier 2 grant for the distribution lines. We have 3 distribution lines that we're looking to replace, 3,400 linear feet. And we're asking DOLA for $503,000 on a $1.6 million project. They don't have a lot of money. So I'm hoping we don't get short funded on that one. If we do, we may cut one of the projects, or actually we have 2 other projects besides that we're doing in-house next year, or one other project in-house next year that would add another 2,100 linear feet. So we'll be looking at replacing 4,500 linear feet of distribution line out of 80. I think Mark estimates we have 80 miles of distribution throughout the city. Next week, we have an EDC meeting at 2 o'clock on Monday. We'll have representatives of CHAFA. One of those representatives, she was the former director here, Karen Harkin. She sat at the end of this table. And she helped us initially when we were talking about the housing assessment study 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. And anyway, they have a new representative that took her place when she retired. And she happens to be Margie Joy. She lives down at Meeker. I've known her for years. So she's our new Colorado Housing Finance Authority representative. So we're going to be talking about the regional housing assessment needs study that we're looking to solicit for 2021. I think that's kind of all I have for tonight.
Okay. Busy as usual. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Heather?
So similar, I mean, to Peter, the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021 has not slowed down. Continuing on with the abandonment issues, I think that we discussed several months ago, and then trying to get the ball rolling on the new water master plan since ours is pretty outdated. I think it's 20 years old. He recommends that we update every 7 to 10 years, so we're well outdated on that master plan. Municipal court is going really well. Judge Kramer obviously was here tonight, but it seems that we have a system working with Ms. Zimmerman, who's the court clerk, Judge Kramer and myself, even though we continue to facilitate court via Zoom. Obviously, council was pretty generous with the Whittle the Wood budget, which led to Ryan and I spending a significant amount of time with Mr. Williams, just kind of revising that contract and getting that squared away. But I think that that's been resolved. So we're lined up and I think ready to go, and hopefully people are happy with that outcome. Trying to line up a presentation next week at Joint Services from the Rock Springs Regional Manager for their airport to present just the advantages of the Craig Municipal Airport, the opportunities that we have that potentially we're not capitalizing on, whether it's grant money that we could be requesting and receiving, or advertising, just generating some revenue and some business for the Craig Municipal Airport. So hopefully he's available to participate next Tuesday, and he has a lot of good information. The big thing that I've been spending time on the past 3 to 4 weeks, I would say, is getting the 5-star program implemented and running. The good news is, and really I hope there's a lot of positive discussion and promotion of this program, but basically we are now officially in the metrics that we are allowed to apply for that program. I think as of yesterday we have met all 7 of 7 qualifications to be able to apply to the state to get that program started for the local businesses here, which is huge because I think 3 weeks ago we had close to 180 cases, and now we're in the 20s. So Moffett County really, there's been a lot of negativity, I think, that on a lot of issues. But, COVID and the handling of COVID has been one of them. But I think Moffett County really kind of deserves, some recognition for where we're at with our levels and, attempting to help small business owners through this difficult time. So hopefully we can get that application with Melanie's help, because there's some technical issues, submitted tomorrow, but we have all of the letters of recommendation. Mayor Ogden was gracious enough to author a letter and provide that for the 5-star program. The committee's been formed. Councilman Hess is part of the committee now. There's other business owners on the committee, but we're really excited to get that program up and running. So that's been a bulk of the time in the past few weeks. And then researching some new charter amendments, and Councilman Nichols, I'm hopeful to get back on the nuisance revisions, and hopefully COVID kind of stays where it's at, and that allows everybody a little bit more time to get back to their regular lives. So busy as usual, yeah. Busy.
Thank you.
And if I missed it, I apologize. Where are we at on an ordinance for, I guess, blighted or abandoned properties?
That's the nuisance.
Okay, that's the nuisance. Okay, getting closer. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'm losing everybody. All right, well, Councilman James, what do you got for us?
Not a lot as far as this goes. Pretty much been stuck at the shop. We did run a food drive in November. I got the results back last month, and we got almost 4,000 pounds of canned food that we donated to the Interfaith Food Bank. Nice. We made some other donations and stuff, but that's pretty much where I've been stuck lately. So exciting stuff.
Okay.
Still haven't seen anybody come in there. Steve has come in to see the shop, but
See a regular?
Oh, yeah.
You can tell us.
Not very.
Oh, okay.
Normally comes in and he's like,
Okay.
guess what's going on now? And I'm like, why do you have to show up here and ruin my day? So it's pretty much like that. But you guys are more than welcome to come in and check it out.
Okay.
So.
I've already I will filled out make a it a point to be in there
Kind of
soon.
giving a lot of money to the city. So
All right.
just
All right.
coming out there. Maybe swinging by Monday through Friday before 4 o'clock. We could have a conversation, go through the shop.
Okay.
That extends to anybody. So.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, sir.
I've got an account, so just put it on.
Oh, okay. All right. You don't have to go often when you leave with a duffel bag, right?
Fill up my punch card.
Nice.
We don't have those.
We don't have those.
Free punch cards?
No.
Maybe you ought to try one.
Councilman Nichols.
Quick, only a couple things. Future of the EMS, city, county, fire district, hospital, all contributed $16,500 to campaign to decide what the future of emergency medical service will be in Moffett County. Campaign, all the entities have been billed. So the campaign is going to take off and start rolling with weekly meetings now that we're in the new year. First item of business was to determine the size of or boundary of the district. If they're going to include Maybell in the district and go all the way countywide as far as including Dinosaur in the district. Brought up some concerns about response times and how big a district can you manage and provide services for. But anyway, that's on it. But they've hired several consultants, everything on the legal side. Once they determine the boundaries, then they determine the budget. And once they get the budget, then they're going to determine the mill levy after that. So what kind of mills they're going to be asking for. This will be on the, as I hear now, it will be on the November ballot to approve EMS district or not. I wanted to publicly thank the Daily Press and Yapa Valley Electric for helping bring holiday cheer with their lighting contest. My prize money won't cover my electric bill for the month, but it's a good program. And Peter, you failed to mention your most recent grant tonight on your report.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, solar.
Well,
No,
you
I said you failed to mention it.
you spoke about it, right? But
Yeah.
wasn't there like some kind of number you were wanting to hear?
Yeah, like $1.8
Yeah.
million.
Million 815.
Okay.
Covers half the cost of the solar construction for 2 megawatts, 12 acres. And, yeah, so we're in the process of,
Well, what he doesn't give you to this, and this is how Peter works. What was it, year and a half ago? Him and I were at a CML meeting, conference, and DOLA was there, and they announced they had $2 million for funding feasibility studies, whatever, for solar, and they wanted to fund solar projects. So Peter grabs me and he goes, we're having breakfast tomorrow with Kimberly Berlin and her boss and somebody from DO. You can tell all the people were there, but that's where that project started. And I don't know if you remember, I said it was great to watch Peter work the floor at these events. He knows so many people, he has all these contacts. And now, year and a half later, we're a recipient of, this project that long-term down the road will decrease the cost for the city. So thank you, Peter, and I just want to recognize you there and the work that, that he does behind the scenes on that as well.
Well, and the part behind that wasn't spoke of either is we were fully funded, our grant, right, request, and there were communities that didn't get anything.
Right.
It was pretty tight, but I also think that there's a group out there that's working on just transition, so maybe that was in our favor.
Well, I think, they want to give us some
Yeah,
to show that.
yeah.
But anyway, thank you, Peter. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Mizuka.
There's no charter review meeting, unless I missed it. There's no CNCC meeting. I have a CNCC meeting Monday. I missed EDC last month, but I am planning to attend remotely. I'll be out of state, but we have a Zoom, so. But I will miss, I'll be flying back on Tuesday, so I'll miss the first joint services. And then the only other thing, I was asked to be the representative for the city for the Rees Across America for the VFW, so I attended that and gave a speech, so.
Okay, is that it?
That's it. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Camp.
So at our EDC meeting last month on the 14th, we had a presentation from Ian Stafford and Hattie Johnson with the American Whitewater, and they talked about the economic impact of river recreation projects. So that's good information to have since we're hoping to receive a grant for the Yampa River Diversion Project. Kirsty gave us an Opportunity Zone marketing update, which she gave us information about the virtual tour that they were going to have, and so it sounds like that went well. We talked a little bit about our 2021 budget and specifically marketing, what that's going to look like for this year. And then we were able to give out some additional COVID business relief funds. Pretty well exhausted that and didn't have to give any back, hopefully. And then I sat in this last week on the, I'm like, what day is it? On the sidewalk, the downtown sidewalk improvement presentation, and we had Trevor and Shane, both with Road and Bridge, and then Eric and Tim with Landmark Consulting. Several of the downtown businesses were, zoomed in, and they had some really good questions, and I think it was just good to have that conversation and kind of get them, on board with the project overall. And then I was excited to see the gateway signs and those, that come out in our email and kind of begin to look at what those signs, those entrance signs are going to look like. I know Tom with Moffat County Tourism Association shared that as well. So I'll be excited to see that project move forward this year. And then just a reminder that we do have our manager evaluations due the end of the week. It's like I started on it and I was on track to get it finished, and I'm like, oh, I need to finish that up and get that to Jared. So just a reminder for everyone to get those finished up.
I saved mine to add more comments.
Nice, yeah, see, I kind of did the same thing, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go back and finish that, so, and that's all.
Okay.
Can I just mention one thing off of Andrea's statements? The EDA grant that you're talking about for the Whitewater Park, we had a call today with EDA, and this is the fun part about federal grants. They just go on and on. And so now they want to have a full environmental assessment, which is a requirement. They've held the money for us, and they plan on holding the money through the end of October. So we have to complete the assessment if we're going to cross the river or if we're going to impact the river in any way, of course, with consultations with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Army Corps of Engineers, CPW. You know, we got to look at all the endangered species. Now, we've done some of that work with the Sledge Line Project. SGM had just completed, and the county also has a recent environmental statements concerning those species on that boat ramp that they finished this year. So we kind of bracket the boat ramp that we're looking to construct and on each end. The other piece of it is we have to have 90% design completion. And now we have in the budget $450,000 this year for the design. So basically, they're now asking that we have a pretty much a shovel-ready project before the final award letter comes out.
In October.
And yeah, and the funding, their fiscal year funding expires at the end of October. So that's a extended grant process.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it too late to just say never mind?
You could say that.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
We also have today, Legacy Resources Group has offered an $80,000 grant to support our engineering studies.
Nice.
So
nice.
Good.
That adds to the $261,000 that we already had accumulated from different sources. So that puts us about 110, 120 shy of completing the, and I think between the River Roundtable or possibly the AMPA Fund, we're also pursuing the Gates Foundation. So we've got 3 sources to try and shore up the rest of the cash for that project.
Nice. Is American Whitewater already on board? It seemed like they were in part of the conversations maybe early on, but I was just thinking since they just did that presentation, it might be worth reaching out to them.
On board for what?
Like to provide some funding possibly, or some help, financial help?
I don't know. I haven't pursued a discussion with those guys on that. But it could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Hess.
So not a whole lot of city stuff. I graduated from law school, so I got that done.
Congrats. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm buried in books studying for the bar for February, which is miserable. So the month
like
of February, I'm just going to disappear. I'm just going to go lock myself in a basement somewhere. What's that?
I say you rarely pass a bar anyway.
Right, that's true. That's true. And I'm married. I'm married to an Irish girl. So speaking of that, just pairing off the Opportunity Zone, Tim Scott, one of the sponsors of the original Opportunity Zone bill, watched a video that my wife and I were in with Sorensen Impact with the coffee shop project. So he reached out and we did some filming last night to be part of another video segment to kind of market the Opportunity Zone. So Craig will be featured, the Craig project will be featured in a national-wide thing by the bill sponsor. Several months ago, we were in the Sorensen Impact Institute because 4 Point Funding actually won an award for one of the Opportunity Zone funders. So we're hoping that, I'm actually hoping at the federal level that they'll look at modifying that and continuing that bill going because I think it's done some great things. Outside of that, I think we're probably going to have, are we going to have Charter Review next month or like the end of this month? We should probably schedule that. Does anybody know where Sherman is? Does he still alive? I haven't heard from him. So
He's probably tired of hearing from any of us.
right.
In Utah, I know that.
Yeah, he's on the future of EMS meetings.
Maybe I'll.
He is. He works for the hospital now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
Physician coordinator. But maybe I'll send an email out and just coordinate a date, and we'll do that before February because we'll get that done. Outside of that, not a whole lot going on. So.
How is progress coming on the project down there on the frontage road?
It's great. So they tore up most of the floor. They're getting ready to put the plumbing in. COVID backed the project up quite a bit. The whole concept behind it is an incubator space for restaurants and people to get into the restaurant business. So there's several Connex boxes that are inside the project that can be leased out, rented out, and then the 4 Points, the people that are going to manage it are actually going to put on like the POS system, the marketing, all that stuff's going to be done by the building. So it's for someone has an idea they want to start a restaurant for, they can come into that project, and the project itself will do the marketing. Everything's there for people to do. It's just putting your idea into and getting some help for putting up like your LLC and that type of stuff.
Still the concept of several little restaurants, and you can go there and have lunch, right?
Right. The idea is to have, I think there's 3 restaurants in there, kind of a la carte off to the side, maybe like a dessert thing, the coffee shop and a bar. So, and then like a delivery through the window type of thing, and then the drive-through for the coffee shop. There's a bunch of talks on what's going to go in the front end of it. We've had some discussions about like a farm-to-table market where people can sell like eggs and that kind of stuff. The 41 or the guy that does the micro lettuce and stuff. So it's an interesting project. It'll be one of the first co-op retail places, I think, in the Western Slope. So the idea behind the Opportunity Zone, I mean, it fits the bill perfectly for that type of thing, as being an incubator space. That's why I think nationally, this project, that type of project, could really benefit Craig. I think a lot of people are watching us right now to see what we're going to do. So hopefully it'll make some other people interested in coming and doing some similar projects within the community. So,
not a date yet, though.
Not a date yet. A lot of it depends on just a lot of the construction work and buying some equipment and stuff. But it'll definitely be this year.
Cool.
Before summer. So.
Okay. Well, that's something. Thank
Still
you.
have your toaster part, by the way.
Oh yeah, we still got the toaster in our garage too.
All right. Well, Councilman Cummings, I don't know if you have anything for us, but this is your turn to shine, sir.
I don't have anything to bring to the council tonight, except to say thank you for accepting me and putting me on and having faith in me that I can do the job. I appreciate it, and I look forward to living up to your standards.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you, sir. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll try to be quick. Yeah, we had the EDC meeting back on the 14th. Andrea alluded to most of that. Councilman Cummings, I had him meet me on, I don't know, somewhere on the 15th or something like that. We sat down and had a conversation, went over some different things about council and what he was looking to do, and just some direction about what this council has accomplished, in my opinion, moving forward, what things we're still looking at doing. Right around that same time, I had a phone interview with a gentleman, Jason Gonzalez, I believe, with Chalkbeat, Colorado, higher education. He was doing a piece on the city of Craig and their involvement and or partnership with the local college as far as how do we see the college as part of our economic future now that we're facing some economic changes in the near future. It was a pretty interesting conversation. It kind of morphed into a conversation about my opinion of Craig and the gritty, resilient folks that live here, and the fact that we were a community before there was a power plant, and we will be a community after there's a power plant. And the fact that we don't like being pushed around by other governments or people, and we are here to do our thing and do it responsibly and take care of ourselves. So that should be out there. We did have our special council meeting on the 18th. I went around, I think it was the 28th, I should know that better, and got to visit with all the departments kind of between holidays and wish them well and tell everybody thank you. And I thought I was doing the right thing, taking them a card for everybody and a kind of meat and cheese tray, and got to Road and Bridge. I mean, they had ribeyes on the grill. I'm like, I just threw my thing in the trash and got in line. I'm like, okay.
I didn't get a meat and cheese.
Well, sorry. It's over in the trash can at Road and Bridge, man. I'll go get it for you.
When you don't invite council, Trevor,
I know.
Budget next year. That was number one mistake there.
So it was nice to see all the departments. Everybody was in good spirits. There was a lot of folks gone on vacation time, spent with their families, and it was good to see everybody. Got to wish everybody happy holidays and a happy new year, and thank them for everything they do for us. There's a lot of dedicated individuals. We had an airport board meeting on the 4th. There is, I believe it's an individual looking to build a hangar, another hangar out at the airport. So trying, the airport is trying. I threw out the idea of, well, between myself and Mr. Tipton, the idea that the city would like to sit down and go over some different possible revenue streams and ideas out there for different things. So looking forward to joint services. Hopefully we can get that set up with Devin. Is that from which airport is it again?
Sweetwater.
Rock Springs, thank you. So I threw that out there, made sure to let them know they would all be invited. Once we got that figured out, we did the Tier 2 grant introduction. I think it was on the 14th. No, that's coming up, right? We have that one 2 days from now. We had another one pass, sorry. Yeah, okay. And then EDC next Monday. I'm probably going to miss that. I joined the snowmobile club this year, and I get my first opportunity to go out in the snowcat and groom trails, and I don't work that day, so I probably won't even join via Zoom. I don't think I have that good a service up there.
I doubt it, yeah.
But it's you know, I don't know how many folks in here are familiar with the snowmobile club. They do a lot of stuff. They groom a lot of trails, like 300 miles worth of trail or something like that, and it's pretty impressive. So yeah, kind of excited to go check that out. And then we have joint services next Tuesday, right? So unless you guys are just wanting to hang out and talk some more.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Hey.
Aye.
You stay then,
Gonna stay
sir.
longer?
I'm noting that just so you.